Hello interwebs, welcome to Let's Fix Computers, or it's a Let's Build Computers for once, but it doesn't really matter what I say these days. Anyway, this is the Fractal Pop Air, which is a case I've been wanting to look at for quite a while now. I keep threatening to buy one of these and then I never do. However, here it is. I'm going to do a case review like I used to in the before times, in the long ago. I've got a PC to build up for a customer in one of these, so we're just going to do an assembly. But I thought I'd take a look at this case just to show off what it was like and to give my impressions of it. Because I think this is one of my go-to cases. I have had a sneak preview at the smaller version of this, the Micro ATX one. But this is my first time looking at the normal ATX one, despite the fact that I keep recommending this case to other people because the reviews on it are very good, and I just think it's a really good looking case personally. This is Fractal's mid tower, and I'm a big fan of this because it's a good looking mid tower case that is just a box basically. This is the niche that I wanted from the NZXT H500. But obviously that had the inherent problem that it was not an airflow case. These days it is, but that's another discussion. But, you know, just a nice clean looking square box case with front airflow, you know, nice interior, tempered glass, power supply enclosure, etc, etc. What I really like about the Pop Air series is that they come in multiple different colors. They come in black and white, and you can get them with various internal colors. As you can see, I've got the light blue one here, which I think looks really nice. I think it's really cool to have a splash of color on the computer. The downside is that this does actually tie you into that color, because obviously the big benefit of RGB is that it can be whatever color you want. However, if you're one of those kind of people that are just like, I'm always going to be blue because I like blue, buy the blue one. So that's kind of what we've gone for here. So this is the RGB version as well. It does have the RGB fans pre-fitted to it. And we're going to do a quick tour of the case and then we'll start building up in it. So let's start with just a quick turnaround. On the front panel here, as you can see, we've got 220mm fans there as standard. You can fit your standard 360mm AIOs on the front there, and I think it'll take a 280 as well. Don't know about a 420, so yeah, take that with a pinch of salt. And it's got I've just tilted it back there just so you can see that it's not perfectly flat. It's got that kind of the Fractal honeycomb look to it, and that breaks up the front nicely. And the other very distinctive feature of this tower case, which again makes me a big fan of it, is this front bit here. This guy pops off. It's just a magnetic latch, and behind here we can actually put a 5¼ drive. So if you still want to put a DVD drive or a Blu-ray drive into your computer, you can fit one back here. And again, especially for those of you who have a Blu-ray drive that you really want to have fitted but you probably won't use very often, you can fit that and just have it hidden away behind the door, except for when you need to use it. And it also comes with this natty little accessory drawer, which I think is really cute actually. So you can put your accessories in there, or you can store dongles or something in there. I think that's a really nice touch. That's just a freebie thing that they can put in there. Or you can remove it and have 2 DVD drives if you're that way inclined. So yeah, and there's no fancy door, there's no fancy hinge that will break off, or any of those, you know, the annoying little buttons where you press it in and it latches that always break and things like that. It's just 2 magnets and then just magnets on. Nice and simple. I appreciate that. And this has got a natty little Fractal clothing tag on it as well. These clothing tags, these are kind of all the rage with the premium brands, and part of me is just like, that's stupid, that's dumb. But also I kind of like them. They break up the edges a little bit, and I don't know, they make me feel like I've bought a premium product, I guess. So make of that what you will. If we have a look at the front I/O, which is up on the top of this case, we've got a OK I/O. That's a very dejected okay, but it's got pros and cons. So firstly, we've got separate headphone and microphone, which I appreciate. So for those of you who use analog headsets, I know you're out there because I've asked this question before. You don't need to use a splitter on that. You've got separates. We've got two Type 3 ports that are really nice, clean-looking ones. Nice sharp edges around those, so they look nice, clean rectangles. None of the annoying stuff that we used to see on Corsair cases that used to annoy me. Type C is DLC. First major gripe about this case. The year is 2023. Type C should be standard. It should not be an optional extra. I'm very, very angry about that. I've whined about this on other case reviews I've done where I've been like, this is a premium case. Why is the Type C an optional extra? The Corsair 4000D, which is a direct competitor to this case, that's got Type C as standard on it. And someone out there is going to be like, well, it costs them more to put Type C on it. Let's pretend that it costs them another $10 to add the Type C cable in as standard. Because like as an optional extra, it's probably like, I don't know, $15 to buy the thing and fit it. So make the case cost $10 extra. Just this shouldn't be a discussion. Just put the port on the case. Anyway, moving back down the front I/O, we've got a power button and we've got an LED button. So the power button has a 2 LED illumination in it, which is tied into the RGB. So if you're using the onboard RGB, then this will be colored the same as your fans and stuff, which is pretty cool, I think. It's unnecessary, but sure, okay, not bad. Then this guy is our LED control. So we can single press that to change color, or we can long press it to change mode. It's got a basic RGB controller built into it, which we'll talk about more in a bit, which is, it's not going to power a big complex RGB setup, but it does provide the minimum required to run what you've bought with the case. That is good because, for example, when I bought my Fractal Torrent, the Fractal Torrent, the RGB edition, has 5 RGB fans and an LED accent strip, and has no built-in RGB controller. So you've got 6 total ARGB header cables that come inside that case and nowhere to plug them into. They just give you those 6 cables and be like, good luck. That's very much a bring your own controller case. Whereas this one, the built-in controller is very basic, but it is there, which means if you're doing just a mid-range quality build and you don't want to invest a lot of money in the extra RGB backend, everything will light up as standard, is the important thing. I don't know if the non-RGB version has this as a reset button. I would imagine that this functions as reset on the non-RGB edition, which would be welcome because there's still room in this world for a reset button, in my opinion. There is no hard drive activity light, and because the power LED is tied into the RGB, you can't repurpose that either. So I'm not going to say whether these are pros or cons because these are kind of very niche observations, but they're just observations. So, you know, if you tend to connect up your front I/O in a very particular way, now you know what to expect, which is kind of the purpose of a video like this, in my opinion. Like, I'm not going to do thermal testing on this, but the idea is that you can watch this, see the walk around, and know what to expect from the case. So let's take the side panels off and have a look inside. All the side panels have captive thumb screws on them, so you won't lose them. The rear side panel is nice and sturdy. It's got folded edges around every side, which is good because that reduces some of the flex in it, and it also means that because it's more sturdy, there's less chance that you're going to get rattles and buzzes and things like that. So this is much more expensive than just a standard side panel where it's just a sheet of metal. So small touches, but this is how you know you're buying a premium case and not just a tin box. The tempered glass side panel also has a nice satisfying rail that it sits on. So I always dislike taking tempered side panels off when they're the sliding arrangement because they just don't feel nice to remove. However, Fractal have done a really good job with this one. We've got these little tongues sticking out the bottom, so when you actually put it into the case, it actually sits in there, goes up, and then slides in. So that was just, you saw me just do that with my fingertips, so really nice, feels really good to take on and off, quality product, big fan of that. So looking on the inside of the case now, pretty standard interior. All the standoffs are pre-fitted. The center standoff has got the little peg sticking up, so it locks the motherboard in place nicely. The rear fan is nicely cable routed into place, which is nice attention to detail there. It's not quite sort of NZXT levels of pre-plumbing where all the fans are actually routed and tied back in the case, which is really nice. However, that's still nice because it just means that this cable can be an annoying guy that just keeps falling out into the middle of the case. So it's just nice to have a little hook there. There's no hole around the middle here for your graphics card power cables to come up through. And likewise, this area here is reasonably narrow. It's wide enough, but like if you have a big graphics card that has a lot of heavy PCI Express cables coming through, that is going to be a little bit of a struggle. It's absolutely doable, but there's no like wide open hole just to go poof, straight into your graphics card. So it's not a deal breaker, but yeah, I'm a big believer in having a hole around here-ish for your GPU power cables to come up through. It's just kind of a standard in my opinion. So flipping it over around to the back. So on the back here, we've got two 3.5-inch bays down here, and these are split as well, which is nice. One of them attaches to the top, one of them attaches to the bottom. And the reason why this is particularly interesting is that if you're using a 5.25-inch drive in here, you can have your Blu-ray drive up the top and still fit a hard drive underneath it. Or you can do it in reverse. You could have the Blu-ray drive down the bottom, hard drive up the top. Or if you've got none, you can have two drives in there. So it's nice they've split that up. I fully expected that to be a single cage, and I was fully expecting to turn around and say, if you're actually going to use a Blu-ray drive, you cannot have 3.5-inch hard drives, which would have been a little bit of a bummer, because if you're the kind of person who's using a Blu-ray drive, you probably have a lot of media or movies on your computer. That seems like kind of things that go hand in hand to me. So it's nice that you can pick and choose which you have. It also means that you can just remove one of these drive cages just for more dump storage. And also, now I'm looking at it as well, hang on a moment. That's beautiful. I can see where this is going. You can put that up there, and you can put it you can put it in there. Now you can have two 3.5-inch hard drives and a Blu-ray drive. This is really good use of space. This is very intelligent use of space. I like this design a lot. Now, these days, you know, with storage so cheap at the time of making this, I don't think anyone is really investing in hard drives right now. But on the flip side, while, you know, 2 and 4 terabyte SSDs are remarkably cheap, with 3.5-inch drives, you can be putting in 12 terabyte drives and have massive storage. So, you know, whichever you want to go for, this case will accommodate that. So this is a really simple solution that actually solves the problem nicely. And just for good measure, we've got two 2.5-inch bays over here as well. I'm not really a fan of having drives here because I find wiring them up can be kind of awkward, but it's there, you can use it, or you can take it out. I'm just going to detach this. I'm just going to see if there's anything to surprise me underneath. No, not particularly. It might be interesting if they put in some slots so you could move this up to here or something, because one of the things that I find the 2.5-inch bays really useful for is these plates are a really good place to mount RGB and fan controllers. RGB and fan controllers generally want to sit around here, because then you can have your front fans wired directly into it, and like your rear fan can come across the top and go in. So like this is a really good place to put your RGB controller. So it would be really neat if they put in just 2 slots so you could just move this guy up to there or something, instead of putting it back here, which is kind of nowheresville as far as cable tidying is. This is just kind of awkward to put anything to, in my opinion. But you know, it is what it is. Still, very impressed with the drive bay layout there. That's better than I thought it was going to be. We've got the requisite cable tie-down points scattered all around, which is nice, including like a middle one here, which is very handy as well because, for example, your CPU cables, you kind of want them to come up and along and then up if you've got the length. So tie them back around there, very nice. These guys up here, we've got some nice Velcro tiebacks for these. And the accessory kit does come with a bunch of extra Velcro tiebacks, I think, as well. No, I'm a liar. It doesn't. That's the accessory kit there. So no bonus tiebacks, which could have been nice because these hooks are the right width for these tiebacks. So if they throw in a couple more of these into the accessory kit, you could have had some nice Velcro tiebacks for your CPU cable or something like that. Not the end of the world, but there's a token gesture for zip ties in there, so you know you got that going for you. They have also included the rubber mounts for hard drives as well, which is also good because if you are running hard drives are noisy, man. So rubber mounting them will significantly dampen the vibration they produce that does sound through the case. So that's that. The fans that they come with are daisy chained, which is neither here nor there in my opinion. This is good for low-end builds where you may not have very many fan, where you might not have many fan headers. So you can daisy chain all of the case fans together into a single header because you're running, say, an A520 motherboard or even a low-end B series motherboard, you might only have 1 or 2 system fans. So you might have fan header for the front fans, another fan header for the rear fan, and your CPU fan, and that's it. So it's nice that they've put in the daisy-chained fan connectors. Personally, I would rather that they have put in the extra money to make these PWM fans instead of 3-pinners. Because it's a bit of a shame they're not PWM. 3-pin is fine, but PWM is better. And I would imagine that it would have been fractionally more expensive to do that instead of having the pigtails. But yeah, that is what it is. The same fans have got daisy chainable RGB, ARGB headers. So these are the 3-pin digital RGB fan headers, which are compatible with with pretty much all of your motherboard RGB outputs, and you can get a multitude of different ARGB hubs or controllers for these as well. So lots of options there. We're going to plug these in up here. This little red cover here, there's literally just a header just poking out the top there, and that's where we're going to plug all of these back into. So that's just there, so you can plug them into the case's built-in header, or you can plug them into your motherboard if you've got the outputs. But again, most motherboards, low-end motherboard will have 1 RGB header, a high-end motherboard might have 2 on it, but you're going to want to daisy chain these. So it's quite okay to daisy chain the fans up for RGB, but the disadvantage is that it means that everything on that daisy chain has to show the same color or pattern. So this is fine for most cases, but one really good example where you might want different colors is if you bought, let's say you bought this case and you had a motherboard with 2 ARGB headers, you want to plug your fans into one of them and then say an RGB strip into the other one, and then you can have the RGB strip providing a wash light of, say, blue, and then you can set your fans to purple. And then you can have a really nice blue-purple mixture or something like that. Whereas if you've got everything daisy chained onto a single header, you can't have 2 separate colors in that way. So pros and cons of both. However, the built-in fan controller does have some basic colors dialed into it, which I will show you, and it's got some nice presets in there as well. So these are not requirements. Front panel headers, we've got serial ATA power for the RGB controller. So yeah, unavoidable really, but you will need a SATA chain in there. We've got our single noodly boy for the power switch, because there's no reset switch, there's no hard drive LED, and the power LED is coming off of the RGB controller. So that's all you get for your front panel. HD audio, and we've got the 3.0 header, which is using the flat style cables, which are a little bit more flexible. Good, that's that. Final obligatory thing is, how do you take off the front panel? Let's find out. I'll take off the front covers there in the accessory drawer, and this should just pull off. Here we go. Ugh. Oh, there we go. That just pulled off with relative ease. The filter is not removable. You could pry, it's got little metal tabs around it. You could pry those open to remove the filter. But it's not like hot swap removable per se. But front mesh like this, the cleaning process is basically to just do that with your sleeve. So yeah, it doesn't need to be removable. But on the other hand, this entire thing came off fairly easily for cleaning, so that's an option. And that also gives us full access to the fans. So the fans, as you can see, can sit outset, which puts them up against the mesh, which is optimal for appearances, but you could also mount them inside as well if you wanted to do that. So yeah, I would always have them on the outside, gives you more space inside, but yeah, the option is there, you can do what you wish. If you're running a front mount radiator on this, what you would want to do is put the radiator, you'd want to put your radiator on the inside and then your fans on the outside and screw them together in a sandwich. And that would put everything nice and far forward. So that's how I would set that up. But yeah, the top grille is fairly short. I think they could have extended this along the front a bit more, so you could actually put a long radiator up top. And now I've taken into consideration what's underneath the power supply enclosure, I'm actually wondering what kind of radiator clearance you do get with this. I'm going to look that up super quick. Yeah, I've just confirmed that. This is no 360 or 420 mils allowed. Both the top and front rails are designed for two 120 or 140 mil fans only. So 2 fan radiators only, in other words. So that's fine. Like, I think these days, especially with some of the super hot CPUs that we can see, it would be nice to fit the long boys in there, especially because with coolers like the Liquid Freezer 2 around that are really cheap, it's not expensive to have a really big radiator. However, that much being said, let's do the test. Can this big-ass Corsair fit in there? It can. Does it mount? Yes, mounting holes do line up. 280mm rad up the top, you're not going to get all the screws in. However, like, I can get in 4 screws there, which is more than enough to hold the radiator in place. And it's going to cover just a little bit of the radiator up the end. So yeah, you're not going to get full throughput. You'll get most throughput. I doubt you would lose a meaningful amount of cooling from there. So if you want to go absolute mad lad, you can do that. We've also got a massive offset to clear motherboard VRM heatsinks and stuff like that. So yeah, it doesn't want to have a big 280mm radiator up top, but you could. and the front will fit a 280mm rad quite comfortably. So yeah, 3-fan rads are out of the question, but I don't think that's a deal breaker for most cases. However, if you already have a 3-fan water cooler, that kind of sucks. You're going to need to replace that guy. But so long as you can fit a 280mm rad, you can still put a big water cooler on there. So that's fine with me. Right, that's the walk around and the teardown. Let's build a PC in this thing. Okay, right, I've got this guy all built up now and switched on. I haven't set up the RGB on it yet, so there's always the last finishing touches that you've got to do on a new build. However, as you can see, the overall system came out great. This case is really easy to build in. There's loads of room, there's loads of cable space. The holes on the motherboard tray, there are a couple of areas where they look a little bit small, like the vertical hole for putting in the ATX 24 pin and stuff like that. It kind of looks like it's going to be a little bit too narrow, but by the time you actually get to building, it's fine, basically, nothing wrong at all. Although, like I mentioned, if I needed to run more than one PCI Express power cable, then I would start fighting to find nice cable routing for that. Thankfully, I just need a single 8-pin for this 6600 XT that I've got in this build. So that's just fine. The RGB, as you can see, has got really nice, vibrant color on it. So I've got it on just the default rainbow wave at the moment, and yeah, the color looks really good. I'm very impressed with the way these things come across. So I think there's 5 or 6 LEDs per fan, which is fine, they're not going to change your world, but as a starter kit, it's completely fine. So if I hold down the LED button here, we can go to different modes. So that's doing a phase now. There's one that I'm looking for, which I think looks the nicest. This one doesn't come out on camera very well, but it's actually what I call the vaporwave look, or very close to it, where we've got blue, we've got turquoise, we've got a little bit of green dialed in there, and it's just very gently shifting between them. Cameras don't pick this up so well, but in real life, this is a really nice look that I'm a massive fan of. I run a very similar setup to this at home. It's just got more purple dialed into it. But it's a really good look for this case, and that's one of the presets that's in here. And I think if we have a look, I'll just tap through to the other ones. There is an off as well, you know, just in case you buy an RGB case and then not want the RGB. Or if you're going to bed or something, I don't know. There's a multitude of other little patterns and colors in here, including flat colors. There's white, there's yellow, and then we've got the RGB as well. So whatever defaults you want, there is something in there. And if there's anything in there that, you know, if you're not finding what you do like, then as I mentioned, you can just plug these fans directly into your motherboard ARGB header, and that will do the job as well. So I'm going to go back to that, the vaporwave look, as I called it, just because I think that's a really pretty preset. So again, I'm just holding down the button to go through the changes. There it is. And that's what I'm going to go for on this build. Whoop. So finally, let's talk about the price of this. So this case, this RGB edition, I believe it came in at, it was about £90, I think I paid for it. So there's probably going to convert to approximately $90. And that price is going to go up or down by £10 or $10, depending on just what prices are doing at any given time. But I think this thing is really good value for money. I'm still salty it doesn't have the Type-C port. I think it should include the Type-C port. And I think there's a strong argument to be made that that these fans should be PWM as well. But all in all, Fractal have built a premium look and feel case with RGB and a nice top panel and, you know, nice feature set with those 5 1/4 bays as well, so with some special features. And they've done that for less than 3 figures. And I think that constitutes a good value prospect. So this is a case that I'm definitely going to work with in the future. I very much like this. I think it's a great all-rounder. And the fact that you can get it in a multitude of different colors is a real bonus feature for me. I think having that powder coat on the inside looks really nice. So I hope you guys enjoyed that and found that interesting, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.